All right, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. All right, a few housekeeping matters. Emergency exits off to the side, also out in the lobby, to the right and the left. Restrooms are out in the lobby. If you haven't done so already, please sign the attendance sheet at the back of the meeting room. There's also proposed resolutions back there, business cards in the back table. If you haven't done so already, please turn off or silence your cell phones. If you have any conversations that don't directly relate to the ongoing application, please take it out in the hallway so as not to disturb the application. As far as each individual application, it would be greatly appreciated that if you have an exhibit and it's already been submitted, just let us know and Susie will pop it up on the screen. And when you're talking about an exhibit, do your very best to use descriptive language, north, south, east, and west, structures. Instead of saying, well, if you notice over here and over there, when we look at the minutes, it makes it hard to translate what over here and over there means. So as many words as you can to tell us what it is that you're talking about. If you have a new exhibit, let us know it's new. We'll mark it, and then you can go ahead and use it. As far as how the meeting is going to proceed, you'll make your presentation. Unless it's absolutely necessary, we won't interrupt you. And when you're done with your presentation, we'll ask some questions, and we would greatly appreciate it if you don't interrupt us. So again, it's hard that when Amber is creating the record, if we're talking over each other, and as much as I may have a distinguished voice, it's going to get all muddled and muddied if we just do that. So one at a time, it would be great. I may have to stop you because sometimes you need to do that. With that, next thing I'd like to do is have the June 6, 2024 minutes reviewed and approved. If everyone has had a chance to take a look at it, if they're ready, I would entertain a motion for approval. If there's discussion, let me know and we can do so.
I make that motion.
Second. Fred, a second. And all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it's carried. All right, first is the mobile graphics. If we can take a look at the resolution from last time, this would be June 6th. There was an error initially on the square footage. Well, we took care of that, but in our board's math, it wasn't calculated right. So if you look on the second page, highlighted in blue, that's the correct number. So if we approved it on the 6th, but we have to correct, again, the square footage on page 2. This highlighted in blue. If anyone has any thoughts, questions about that? If not, I would entertain a motion to amend the resolution that was made on June 6th. So we'll have a resolution dated June 17, 2024 with the corrected number of 3,217 square feet. I would entertain a motion for approval on that.
Motion for the approval of it.
Thank you, Matt. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Leah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you so much. Okay. Next is the Snyder project. You need an extension of time.
Microphone is on.
We can hear you.
Good evening.
You've done a nice job at least letting us know that why you need the extension and also what your timing is on everything.
Yes,
And
yeah,
it
we
looks
made,
like your target to be completed really is no later than October 31st, 2024.
that's correct.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, we met with Adam to make sure we covered everything, and that's what reflected here. And we put a little bit of buffer in the timing to make really sure we're done by end of October.
Okay,
And looks like you already knew everything I wanted to say.
great, thanks. It was a detailed letter, May 23rd, 2024. Appreciate that. Fred, any questions?
No,
Matt?
Nope, appreciate the detail.
I'm good.
Good, Larry's good?
Yeah, I'm
Leah's
fine,
good?
I'm fine.
Okay. Any opposition from the public for or against? Hearing none. We'd entertain a motion for approval of a second extension of time for the application. So it really would, even though you're asking for October 31st, 2024, usually we extend it out a year, and that should be ample time. This will be the third.
It'll be October 31st.
Okay.
But thank you, I appreciate it.
Great. All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none, thanks. Good luck to you.
Thank you very
Hopefully
much.
we don't see you.
Yep. Thank you, bye-bye.
Very good. Thanks for your patience. All right, next is U-Haul for a sprinkler waiver.
My name is Ryan Abruzzo from Marathon Engineering. I'm joined today with Adam Fischel from our office and Tom Palmero from U-Haul. We're here today requesting a sprinkler variance for the U-Haul on Route 96. It's a 9.3 total acreage site, and coverage is 3.3 acres covered. Yeah, it's in the commercial district, and the Route 96 overlay, district as well. We're adding a bunch of, self-storage to the rear of the lot to the southwest, I guess you'd say. Totaling roughly 13,600 square feet of self-storage that we're gonna put in. Yeah, I'll open it up to you guys' questions.
Okay. Start with Matt this time. Do you have any questions, Matt?
Just a couple. So have you read through the fire marshal's comments?
Yep, I got those.
Sounded like they were recommending a couple hydrants be added to it. What were your thoughts on that?
So, we're fine with that. They originally wanted us to add one to the east side, so we stuck that one in there, and they wanted one in front of Building 3 and one right next to the driveway. We have them on, but not in the plans that you guys have now, because we got those after, we got the comments after we submitted, but we have
But
added
you're-
those.
But in general, you're okay with everything
Yeah,
fire marshal said?
Yep.
You know, we obviously weigh their recommendation,
right.
Quite a bit. They're the ones that may have to run in and out of these buildings if something happens. In terms of what's going to be stored in it and what the building material, or and what the building is constructed of, is it at all, like an all steel structure, steel building, like we see a lot of the self-storage places around here, or?
Yeah, I'll defer to Tom from you.
The buildings themselves are actually aluminum, so they're not flammable. And as far as stuff being stored in the units themselves, there's no flammable materials, no vehicles, anything like that. So it's just household goods.
Now, is that, I'm assuming that's in your lease terms and conditions, or?
Absolutely in our contract. Yep.
What's the impact if you do have to comply with the code from a cost perspective?
It probably would not be doable to expand storage there.
What does that mean? Like, what?
We wouldn't be
like,
able to-
Usually applicants will have an estimate, right, for.
Yep.
It's gonna cost me 200, I'm just gonna throw out a number, $200,000 to do it this way, but to do what the fire marshal recommended, it was only 20, or something to that effect.
Okay.
And so we generally have to work off of, objective facts and evidence and those kinds of things. So is there an estimate that you have? Is there
Well,
something that you can show us as to why you want to not adhere to the code?
Just the cost of putting everything up. Basically, if we can't expand, it's going to be hard to stay in Victor or find a new location.
Sure. But what's the cost of putting in the sprinkler system?
We wouldn't be able to put they're portable storage units, so they're.
But what would the cost be? Like,
The
and that's what I'm
sprinkler
trying to get
system?
at. I understand, like, I think of it too, and I'm like, it's probably gonna be expensive, but
I'd have
I
to
don't know
get
what
that.
it
I
is.
have
It
no
would be
idea.
great if we had that.
No
in front
clue.
of us.
I have no idea how much it would cost to run a sprinkler system in those buildings.
Okay.
I apologize. I can get that information for you, but it's not something that I've looked at.
Okay, we'll see what the rest of the members say.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Fred, thoughts, questions, concerns?
I can wait till you get that information. We had a similar project and didn't get sprinklers, and I thought it was a mistake. It wasn't a good enough reason. Maybe you got something more.
Well, it'd be impossible to run sprinklers into these. They come prefabricated in 10 units, so they're dropped off. We drop into place and they set. So there's no running water to them, there's no electricity to them. I don't know, I really don't know, I haven't looked at that. It's never been asked before, so.
Concrete?
No concrete. It's a prefabricated aluminum building that we just drop and it's ready to go.
So there's no electrical?
No electrical,
nothing.
nothing, nope.
No alarms?
No alarms, no, it'll be gated. I think they had the picture up on the last one of the units themselves. So they're prefabricated units that they come 5 10x10s per unit. So we just put them up on the lot, drop them, and we're all set to go.
Good for now, Fred?
Yeah.
Larry?
Have you done this before?
I'm sorry?
Have you done this before?
In front of a zone board meeting or?
No, and I mean, put these up.
Oh, yes, yeah.
No one's ever
Several times.
asked?
About a sprinkler system inside of it? No, I've never been asked. Yeah, we have them all over. That, like I said, they come pre-made, and usually we put them in places that we can't get electrical to, we can't get, water to, so that's why we go this route.
Okay, thank you.
Leah?
So I noticed that there are other companies that have storage units, comparable to this outside. Do you know if they have sprinklers in there?
No, I could guarantee I can't speak for anybody, but most likely not.
No. Maybe if you could just find that out as well.
Okay. We don't have them in any of our outdoor units.
No.
U-Haul is a company throughout the United States. I wouldn't be able to speak on
Yeah.
behalf of any other storage company.
Yeah.
According
Yeah.
to the fire marshal's letter there, it said there's 2 other ones in the area that they don't, that they got the waiver for it and don't have internal
Yeah.
fire sprinklers on it.
Yeah. Now, also, with adding these prefab buildings, it looks like it's going to take away some of the parking that you have there, and I notice now you have a lot of the rental U-Haul trucks, so where are those trucks going to go? How is the parking going to be affected? I saw on the side you plan on putting some extra spots.
Correct.
So if you could address just those issues,
Yeah,
and then I'll have
actually-
another question.
Actually, everything's getting shifted over. We're not going to have as many trucks there. We have maybe 30 trucks that are just assigned to stay there always, and then customers drop other stuff off as they move in from out of state. But mostly we're just pushing everything to that one side. All the trucks are going to stay on that side, and everything else will be storage over to the east side.
Okay. And how are you going to address, like, the cars or trucks coming into your lot and then leaving the lot? Because on the drawing, it looked like there might be a little congestion coming in and going out. Just if you could talk about the flow of traffic
Sure.
coming in and
The
out.
aisles themselves are 30 feet wide, which is more than enough to fit our trucks in to get them to turn. Industry standards 20 to 30 feet wide for those aisles. So a regular 26-foot truck, which is our biggest, would have no problem making those turns and getting in and out.
Okay. And I think earlier you said where these storage units are, it's going to be like gated?
Correct,
and-
yes,
yeah,
we're putting,
okay.
we're planning on putting gates to
Gates.
enter and on two different sides, right on the lot.
Okay, that's all the question I have. Thank you.
Yep.
When you said there's no electricity in the unit, there's not a light, there's not a switch, nothing.
Nope.
I think we have some,
We've had applications before, and every other time that I recall, we have asked on the, is it cost prohibitive? And not knowing, it's, may not be a good enough answer for the rest of the board. The reason for that sprinkler law to be there in the first place is for not only the protection of people, property you can replace, but for the protection of people. Are there workers going to be there? I think the answer is no, right?
Correct.
And then it's the firefighters. And I recall an application being submitted and a firefighter saying, with these storage units, if a fire occurs in the storage unit, they don't know which one it is. And those things get hot. And there's nowhere for the smoke to go, and they just may say, we're not going to go into it. It's, they just let the whole thing burn,
Yeah.
and just, hopefully you can understand.
Oh, absolutely.
That's going to be on you, and if the firefighter didn't feel safe enough to go in there, they're just going to leave it alone.
Oh, absolutely, I wouldn't blame them.
So, what's it going to take to find out the cost of putting a sprinkler system in there?
I guess I could call a company and have them give us a quote. We're gonna have to tear up the entire parking lot that we just paved and get water ran out to them, so it's definitely gonna be expensive. And I don't know of any other storage companies that have out sprinklers in an outdoor unit.
What I'm gathering from Matt, and I agree, is doing our due diligence, asking the questions. Again, someone looks back at this a year, 10 years, whatever the date is, and say, well, gee, the zoning board kind of skimmed over that question. And all these other applicants, we were requiring, we need the number. And then comparing it to, is it cost prohibitive? And it's a legitimate sprinkler system, engineer, or whoever sells the units to say, this is what it's going to cost. It's going to, $500 in a unit of, U-Haul, big corporation. If it's $5,000, $50,000, those numbers, I think, are going to resonate with the board and say, okay, now that makes some sense of what you're trying to do. And maybe in our eyes, it would be cost prohibitive, or maybe it won't.
That's why we were putting the fire hydrants, they requested for 3 fire hydrants.
I think that's the alternative. If I had to guess, and the fire marshal isn't here, they'd rather have the suppression system, sprinkler system in there. But if it can't be done, if it is cost prohibitive, they're going to trust our judgment to say, okay, if all those conditions are met, let me stop there a moment. Are you okay with all of the conditions that the fire marshal laid out? You have any objection to any of those?
No, we were all set to go.
What's your timeline on the project?
It was last year, so
Last year, okay.
we're trying to get rolling here ASAP.
I don't think we have the power to turn that to.
Right.
clock back.
Yeah.
So our next meeting is, what, July 15th?
Yeah, 15th.
Okay. Do you think, let me ask the board, Fred, you want to see those estimates knowing what we've heard so far?
Yeah.
Matt, you still do?
So, I think because, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're units like end-to-end sheds. You can't open one and walk in between others. It's not a building that you walk into and walk around. It's not something that firefighters are gonna open up and, again, be in there. Obviously, having some type of suppression, limits damage of stuff, but at this, I don't really care about stuff. We just wanted to make sure that, if you're doing everything that the fire marshal said, I'm okay without the data and what they've presented, in terms of what the building is and what it isn't. I was gonna ask code enforcement, I think the last time, and I probably remember all 3 of those sprinkler waivers that we had in front of us, and they were generally long, drawn-out debates and discussions over what's gonna go in these things, and the fire marshal and everyone were here, so he's probably used to seeing them, which is why it's in writing here tonight. I thought did the town code ever get amended to allow storage in that type of storage? So the variance in front of us is only for the sprinkler waiver?
Correct.
I thought whether storage as an allowed use in a certain district was
No.
in
no.
question the last couple
The only
times.
variance required here is the sprinkler.
Okay.
Can I ask a question since I'm already talking? I believe that there's exterior lighting, the wall packs
Yeah.
proposed as part of the project, correct? So there will be some electricity, correct?
Oh, yes, I apologize, yep. Wall packs on there. We have the stand-up lighting in the lot already,
Okay.
the light poles, so yes,
the-
we are gonna put wall packs on.
One of these provided images looks like there's an exterior receptacle mounted on the outside of the building, so I just.
It's
is that-
probably a different, it's someplace else,
Okay.
yeah.
Because I didn't see that on your plans, just the wall pack lighting.
Just the wall pack
Okay.
lighting, yes, yep.
No, none of the units are internally lit.
No,
No heat, no anything.
nothing.
Right, so just as a point of clarity, again, Adam Fischel, Marathon, the point of clarity I'm trying to make here is also that the code requires.
Can you just speak into the microphone?
I'm sorry, yep, thank you. The code requires any commercial use to have sprinkler systems, so this is being qualified as a commercial use. That's what puts us in that category. It's not so much whether storage is allowed or not in this district. That's,
I'm saying before it was probably other districts, we had discussions over warehousing like this wasn't specifically allowed in it. I think either the town code had to modify what was used, if you remember, like Tambi, and then the one that was behind the mall. Those two were, I thought, kind of part of all that. Maybe they ended up getting the code changed, but anyways, but it's different. It's not what you're in front of us for, so.
Larry, your thoughts on asking for an estimate, or are you satisfied with the fire marshal's conditions?
Well, I feel bad about delaying it in any way, but I would like to see the number.
You would like to see the number, okay? Leah?
Yes, I agree. I would like to see the number.
Okay. Hopefully that, I don't think it's a big ask, you should be able to find out in enough time, so when we come back, we're ready. And I think the board, well, not putting words in their mouth, the units are being dropped in. If that ever changes, if it ever looks to be more of a permanent storage shed facility, it's a completely different animal.
correct.
Right? If electricity goes in, different animal. You follow all those, presuming that the estimate comes back and the board feels like, okay, I see, it's prohibitive, all right, good to go, as long as you follow all those conditions that the fire marshal had. Is that clear? We just don't want to hear later on to say, well, we didn't hear or we didn't understand.
Sure. No, that's clear for me, yeah.
So just ask questions. If we don't, that's what we're here for.
Sure.
All right, so I think the board is pretty set on getting that estimate, and I think that's just the only thing we really need is looking at that number, and it sounds like you're good to go for those conditions for the fire marshal, should they find it to be prohibitive. All right, good. Anyone from the public want to speak for or against the application? Okay, great. We'll see you on the 15th.
Yep.
15. Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much for your patience. Look forward to seeing you again. You are the Light Comms application.
Sir.
Who are we speaking with?
My name is Link Swedrock with BME Associates, and with me is Andrew Coloratolo from Lightcoms. We were here on your May 20th meeting. We reviewed the application. I think we answered most of the board's questions at that time. However, because of the county, we had to go to the county planning last week to review the application with them, which is why we missed the June meeting, and then we're back tonight. So we're here to request an area variance for the front setback. We provided the aerial imagery with the other building setbacks in the area, and that I think was helpful for the board to clarify. And then, we're asking for 175 foot, where 80 is allowed per code. But because we're in the overlay district, we're required 25% of the lot depth. And this lot's configured a little, it's very deep. And then also we had site plan approval previously in the back, but the Army Corps of Engineers came out and reviewed the site and determined that There was regulated wetlands in the back. So we've proposed it in the front. And we went to county planning last week. Most of their comments were relative to site planning issues, really, some buffering, things like that. We have made an application to the planning board, and we're on their July 9th meeting to review the site plan. So I think with that, I think we talked about it quite a bit last time, so I'll just see if there's anybody has any other questions.
I think you've accurately, especially in the county planning board, it seems most of their comments is directed towards the planning aspect as opposed to zoning. Matt, any other questions for this one?
No, I agree. I looked at the list of relevant comments that they had. Most of them were aesthetics and visuals that they'll get to. I don't have any different opinion from when they were in front of us the last time. I think they're a bit of an undue hardship with the wetland designation right where it is. There's no other reasonable place you could put the building. So no other comments.
Great. Larry?
I agree with Matt.
Okay. Leah?
Yeah, no further comments. You answered all the questions last time.
Great. Fred?
I don't have much trouble voting for this at all. It's amazing it's set back so far. There's room enough to put another bigger building in front of it. Gee.
It's not starting trouble here.
Is that on the record?
Okay, you're all set? Great. All right, I agree with everybody. I think what really helps out tremendously is the Army Corps of Engineers weighing in on it. You made an attempt on the feasibility piece. Could you do something else? And I think the Army Corps of Engineers pretty much answered that. It's like, no, don't put it back there, in the wetlands. It would cause a bigger problem. And we didn't really see anything from the county. So unless there's something from anyone from the public want to speak for or against? All right, so let's walk through this a little bit. Plug it in. All right, the first criteria, whether an undesirable change would not be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties created by the granting of an area variance. As indicated, we'll incorporate the minutes from May 20th, as well as the comments from the county. And the important piece here is the Army Corps of Engineers found that putting that proposed structure in the wetlands isn't feasible. We're 175 feet, or the proposed building is 175 feet from the right-of-way, and it appears to be there's buffering. So with that, there isn't going to be a change in the character or detriment to nearby properties. Would anyone like to add anything to the first criteria? Hearing none. Second, the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. As indicated in the first criteria, the assistance from the Army Corps of Engineers discouraging that the building be placed in the wetlands, and really the only location is where they have, they're asking it to be. Anyone want to add anything to the second criteria?
Nope.
The third, whether or not the area variance is substantial. Although due to the overlay, which it should be at 80 feet, looking at other locations in this site map that the applicant has shown us the aerial, it doesn't appear that it would be substantial. Would anyone want to add anything to the third criteria? Fourth, the proposed variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. I think there would be little question that where the proposed site is would have a far less impact had they placed it in the wetlands. So, no, it's not going to have any kind of adverse effect or impact. Anyone want to add anything to the fourth criteria? Fifth, the alleged difficulty is self-created, although that's not necessarily going to have the board deny the variance based on solely it being self-created. Does the board have any thoughts on conditions for this application? No? Hearing none?
No.
All right, I would entertain a motion for approval.
Motion.
Thank you, Leah. Second from Larry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thanks so much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kennedy, how are you?
Not too bad. How are you, sir?
Good, good, good. Okay, appreciate you staking out the original request as well as what we've asked you to do. I think it was 10 feet off the rear of the property.
Yeah, 10 and a half feet off the north side of the house.
Right, 10 and a half feet, thank you. So I noticed here that you submitted another instrument survey. I think that was today.
Yes, sir.
And it was, these are different. One is that you've thought about a future pool, and another one is about a future shed. Before we continue, I think it needs to be clear, if the board grants a variance, however it's going to be granted, whether it be the 10 and a half feet or exactly what you've asked for, has nothing to do with the shed, has nothing to do with the pool. It's a whole nother process.
Yes, sir.
The other comment that I see from Adam, as well as the superintendent of highway, concern is putting the fence in that easement. Even though you said, I'll put a gate, sounds like you're trying to be as cooperative as you can. It seems like they would rather not have that fence in that area, in that easement area. If you want to comment on that, we certainly could, but I think we'll do one at a time, and I'd rather take a look at that easement piece first before we talk about the other fence section.
Sure, sure.
Okay.
So I can respect, what Mr. Years had brought forward, and I appreciate him coming out to take a look at the site plan himself. I did speak with him on the phone prior to the last meeting and explained to him what was going on. We talked briefly about the construction of the sanitary system that's back there, the storm sewer system that's back there, with it being plastic corrugated piping. Corrosion and wear and tear and stuff like that generally holds up pretty well. The storm drains themselves are positioned in the center of lawns, so they're cared for graded plots of land. So I think that the potential for dust and sediment and dirt and debris to be flowing in there as a result of runoff is probably greatly reduced because of where those are located. So I see the chance that the town may need to be able to get in there, that they may need to be able to get access to that. And again, I feel like I have been trying to work with the town representatives to try and come up with a fair and equitable solution, I suppose. We've proposed the gate, which would be an additional cost to myself. At the last meeting, we talked about a hold harmless agreement that would allow us to allow the town permission to be able to come in and remove fencing if at any point in time that they needed it. When I spoke with Mr. Years before, he had felt that if they needed to get back there, it was going to be a small excavator if they needed to do that, and he said a 10-foot gate would be good enough for that. So I guess I am just trying to find a fair solution to try and work with the town. I understand the easements there. I understand the concern about putting it in there. I understand the concern about precedence, right? If you potentially grant a variance here, are we setting precedence for other neighbors in other areas? I think that I presented last time, and I don't know if we could pull it up, the map that shows where all of the easements are located. I think that, we have a unique hardship in our particular lot that's different than most other lots, and every other lot that is in phase 2 of our neighborhood, and our easement doesn't follow the property line. So we kind of hit on this again last meeting. I'm kind of referring to it as an engineering flaw, but if the house directly across the street, if they simply would have flipped the layout in the original plans and put the driveway on the other side in the yard like they do so often in these subdivisions, then they would have been able to make a straight shot and would have been able to run it down the property line, split the property line like they have on all of the others, and then it wouldn't be as much of a hardship because it wouldn't be, essentially splitting the property in half. When I did the math, the area calculations on that, if we don't have the ability to place the fence in the easement, it reduces our proposal by 40%. And that's assuming that we'd be granted the variance to be able to go out the original setback distance that we were looking at. If we're not granted that space, then we're greater than a 40% reduction in space. Maybe to kind of put things in perspective, that easement is 37 feet off the back corner of my lot, which is shorter than the podium that you have here, or shorter than the depth of the room. So that it just really kind of sandwiches everything in and reduces I hesitate to say usable space, because you're right, we could go back there, we could throw a ball and stuff like that, but the goal is to put together a place that's usable and works for our family, to be able to the kids to play, to be able to function in, to expect that we're going to go out and around and use a 12 or 15 foot space on the other side of the fences, likely not going to happen. Not really efficient use of the land, I suppose.
Okay. Thank you. On the precedence issue, you're not the first one. Applicants will come in sometime and say, well, precedence here, this is going over here, there, and everywhere, the neighborhood. The law is clear on it. Precedence is not a factor here. Every piece of property is unique. They're different. Each application, case-by-case basis. So on your piece of property, as unique as it is, let's talk about the pool for a second. If you do put a pool back there, and even if you're willing to allow the town to go in and do some kind of repairs or maintenance, whatever it is on that system in the easement, they'd have to come in, open up the gate, and as soon as they open up that gate, town potentially is in violation of the state code. It says that pool needs to be fenced in. So if you're going to use that whole fence, your proposed fence, as a barrier to the pool, and that gate's open and are left open, or they're excavating, I think you can see a whole can of worms is going to have a problem there, right?
Sure.
So potentially you would, if you put the pool back in there, the town really can't require, if you already have a fence there in the easement, say, well, you got to put another fence in there. As long as you don't open up the gate and leave it open, you're in compliance with state code. You see the dilemma there of what's potentially what could happen by putting that fence there and using the fence once you put a pool in there?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So I thought about that, and I appreciate the feedback on that. And I guess maybe to backtrack with the submissions that came out today with the pool and the shed, kind of that master plan, I didn't bring that forward in the last meeting because I knew it would spike additional variances and additional concerns, and really the primary focus here was the placement of the fence. But coming away from the last meeting, I realized that if I didn't explain to you why I was asking for the space that I was asking for, and I didn't actually put it all on paper, then it was hard to justify why we were going for that space. And from the feedback that you had provided there, I think there's a couple solutions. One, we had agreed upon a hold harmless agreement, releasing the town from liability. I don't know if that could be looped into that would release the town from liability if the fence came down, that I would have to put up an appropriate structure to be able to protect that space, and the town wouldn't be liable for that. Or another potential solution, I recognize that with the shed, with the pool, all of that is additional permits and additional workings with the town for approvals and plans and everything else. Because if the fence was allowed to pass through that easement with the understanding that there is potential that it could come down, I'm recognizing that right now. If it goes in the easement and the town needs to get through and that gate system doesn't work, it may need to come down. Then at that point in time, maybe we do consider before that, when we go to put in the pool, maybe we do consider more of a decorative fencing thing. We recognize that the vinyl fence doesn't meet the state standard, that we would put in an additional 4-foot fence around the pool that would serve as that standard. So in the event that the town did need to come in and access their easement because we are going through the easement, that would still be safe and secure. I'd be willing to move forward with that at that point in time.
Let me ask you this. If the fence goes up in the easement, would you consider a separate condition? Say, if you put a pool back there, there needs to be a separate fence around that pool, so that should ever the town need to come in there, the fence is already there. There isn't a concern from this town standpoint that the town and/or you are getting yourself in a bind because that fence is, or the pool is now exposed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The other is the gate. You're going to lock it? I'm presuming you are.
I mean,
It's going to put another hurdle.
It would be secured in a manner that would have to be open from the inside, I suppose. What's the best approach for that? How can I best work with the town? I mean, ultimately,
I'm thinking, I'm sorry to talk over you.
Nope.
I'm thinking through it that everyone, they like, whether you go on vacation, you're away, you're not going to be in that house 24/7.
Sure.
I'm not a highway superintendent, I'm not an engineer, but I can imagine a possibility, says, we got to get in there. You're not home, you're on vacation, and they're trying to find you, they can't. Then what? They're going to knock the fence down and,
no, so I grew up in a home that had a fence and the gates were never locked. The gates latched from the inside. You have to, you come through the man gate, I suppose. I would expect the same thing. The doors on my house lock. I'm not worried about necessarily somebody being in the backyard. If they need to get in, you walk through the gate. I would imagine those larger gates would be, they wouldn't have latches on the outside, but if you came around to the inside, you'd be able to open up a latch to be able to swing those open. But as far as actually being locked, no, I don't anticipate locking that space.
okay. Let's, if we could, just focus in the questions from the board just on the easement piece, and then we'll circle back on the fence section, whether it's what you're asking for or 10.5 feet to the north, okay?
Sure.
Fred, your concerns about the fence being in the easement area?
I feel sorry for this applicant because he's got whacked with the easement in the back, lost space, two fronts, setbacks required, and now he's out of room. And I wish there was some way to get it back.
Okay.
We can use it, but what he wants to do.
Well, we can't change the land, it's the situation. So looking at the criteria, and our highway superintendent's thoughts on discouraging putting a fence into the easement area. Given the conditions of the pool issue, if he puts a pool in, having a separate fence around the pool, having the gates in there as a condition, being PVC, and there's no guarantees nothing's going to fail, but highway needs to get in there and fix it. They got to have access to it when they need to get in there.
So, well, they won't have any trouble with that. That's all I want to say.
Okay. Matt, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, if the applicant's gonna put a fence around the pool and extend into the easement, I'm okay with my previous opinion. I don't think the fence should be allowed to go all the way north. I still kind of stand with what we had agreed to or discussed the last time, which is, I believe it's the second drawing that has the fence going 10 feet on either side of the.
10.5.
Sorry, 10.5 feet on either side of the home. I know you want it for privacy. I just don't think it would be in character of the neighborhood. I know there's some others that have the fence, whether they should have the fence or not. That's not for me to determine during this meeting. But obviously, there's other ways you could take care of privacy issues, whether it's landscaping or trees or shrubbery and such. and if you're gonna have to have a pool with a fence on it anyways, that it's kind of what this allows, right? It's, I wouldn't call it an undue hardship because you have the easement. I'm assuming the easement was there when you purchased the home. And so I'm assuming it was probably something that your attorney told you about. So, and hardship to me, is almost something like the previous applicant where you buy a piece of land, you're about to put a building here, and then, where the flood zone is changes on you, and the Army Corps of Engineers or someone comes in and says, oh, it's now over here, after you bought it. That's a bit of an undue hardship situation. But I think you knew what you were getting into with the property that you have. And I get it, I would want to maximize it like you're trying to do here. But I think it's a reasonable compromise to go out 10.5 feet and to let the applicant go in through the easement in the back, hearing what I've heard, that you'll have a fence around the pool, and that, if the town's got to come in, I agree it's probably a very low probability, but if the town has to come in, you'll have the hold harmless agreement, and they'll have to do what they have to do to get the fence out of there and complete their work. So that's where I'm at with it. And I guess for Adam, looking at this as proposed, are there any other variances that the applicant's going to require if they move forward as proposed? For example, the shed being on the property line, or is the pool far enough away from the side setback? It looks like it's about 12 feet, doesn't look like it's 15. So all of those other things, I just want to make sure we're also not creating another situation where you're going to come back in front of us and say, oh, see what you guys did. You made us put the fence here, and so now you got to fix this for us. And I'm just not going to be as excited to help with that situation, because we're all here to talk about the plan, and if we could understand it better, I think it.
And that's why I drew out the two proposals. And so the first one is, I put that, I think it's listed as the updated master plan. That's that 10.5 feet that was proposed in the last meeting, and staking that out. I went with the average size pool, so I looked at, what size pool for a 3 to 5 family home.
30 by 40 is a big pool.
That's probably going to say that's
So
size of your house.
30 by,
almost.
it was like 20, it was like 22 by something else. So 30 by 40, I thought it looked to be average. And then I measured every other pool in my neighborhood, and I could run down through them, but I can tell you it's smaller than most of the other pools in my neighborhood.
Really?
So, yeah, and so
30 by
I took
40
the
to
number when
Sorry, go ahead.
I took the number when I Googled it, 3 to 5, it said 3 to 5 people. It was like 20 by like 32, I don't know, something in that area. And then I added 4 foot of hardscape on either side, thinking that would be the minimum of the sidewalk. So increased that dimensions by 8 feet, and it came right out to be about 30 by 40.
Okay, so the 30 by 40 isn't the pool itself. It's
That would
the pool
include
with-
hardscape and everything else. And again, that would be plans. We would have to go through. That's just a footprint for a space saver to say what that
Yeah,
would be.
I'll just say this, in my opinion, as long as you can make a pool, because you can make a big pool, smaller or larger, right? It hasn't been dug yet.
Sure.
As long as whatever you do next is compliant with the code, you've got my vote on
Correct.
on this drawing here regarding the fence only, with the 10.5 feet on either side into the easement. So I think that's a fair.
Yep.
In my opinion, that's a fair.
But so may I come back and just explain the two? So with the 30 by 40 as the average footprint for that pool, and then the placement of the shed, I was using a 10 by 15 for the shed space. Ultimately, 40 foot left me 14 feet on either side of that pool, and I don't really have room to shuffle that pool because of that drainage easement that's there, and I imagine you won't let me put a pool in there. Rightfully so, right? So that can't really shuffle, so it puts 14 foot on either side. So if it's a 10-foot shed, that puts me either right on the property line, which again would have to be a variance, it's not approved, or if I go to the other side, it still pushes towards forward of the primary structure. Again, not ideal. This is why I didn't bring this stuff to the original meeting, because I didn't want this to take away from the fence. But if we're restricted to just 10.5 feet on either side, and we want to do that pool, we're not gonna have room for the shed. I can't go back with the shed because I can't put a shed in the easement, we can't move that. So we're really run out of space for that. If we have the ability, and I understand we'd have to come back and have more discussions and meetings and trying to, make sure that we do this ahead of time and do it all right and work together on it. But if we were granted the original proposal to go out to within 13 feet of the sidewalk there, essentially, that puts us right up to that RG&E easement. That would leave room for a shed, which again, I would have to work with Adam and work with you guys to see if we could get blessings. But that would be my goal, kind of hide a shed behind a fence so it's not visible. Hopefully seek variances on that, then I would have some space around the shed. If the shed's right next to the pool and I try and pull my lawnmower out, I think I'm gonna end up in the pool.
I just have an issue with granting a variance so that you can have the shed, have a variance for the future shed, right? It's like it's kind of like an embedded variance situation. I think you've got three things going on here, and you kind of need to pick two, is what it feels like, right? You've got the fence, the shed, in the pool, and the location of them all, or even the size of them all. I don't know if in that far back corner, if there's room for a shed, or, where it wouldn't be within the easement, the north, be northeast, it looks like. But again, we're here only talking about the fence, so I don't want to derail it, but at the end of the day, I think you're just going to have to make some tough choices.
Sure. I'm not trying to derail it. I think it's important.
No,
I
I
think it's
wasn't trying to
important to
derail it.
understand what that vision is and where we're trying to go and why I'm asking for the space I'm asking. The last meeting, you told me that I hadn't really sold you as to why I'm asking for that. So here's what my overall plan is. Here's where I want to go. This is why I'm asking for
Right.
that space. And if we go with a lesser amount of space, I'm not able to do the things that I'm trying to do.
That's all I'm hearing, right, is I want to have all of it. I want to be able to do it. It would be perfect. I get it. If you could have the fence everywhere you want it, the pool where you want it, and the shed where you want it. I mean, that's everybody's goal when they come in front of a board like this, is to get exactly how they want it. And there's real reasons why we can, in my opinion, look at the code and say, okay, we can make some reasonable resolutions to help you, right, and move the fence or this or that. But I don't really see anything else other than you want it that way to do it, right? Sure, like I said, it'd be great if you had it all the way around the house, you could put whatever you want, wherever. But that's just not the,
I could just jump in, and what I was trying to do is stick with the question about the easement.
Yep.
Not get into the shed, not get into the sides, and you.
sure, I only went into the shed because the shed is now the reason for.
We're gonna get there.
The shed is the reason for the fence being so far north.
We're not talking about that yet. All I
I'm talking
wanted,
about the fence.
I'll-
That's all I'm talking about.
the fence in the easement,
Just that part?
just
Okay.
that part.
I'm okay with just the
There's
fence in the
there's
easement. Okay.
two variances. Okay. One is the easement issue, and then the other is the fence being forward of the lot line,
Correct.
or the front of the structure.
Okay, I'll just keep it simple. I support the fence in the easement, and that's it.
Okay, there we go. We'll come back to the other piece. Larry?
I'm not very comfortable with having the fence in the easement. Easements are designed to provide access, and I hear what you're saying about gates and everything, but I think that just makes it more complicated for the people who need to get at the easement. So I would not be in favor of that.
All right, just, Larry, a little more explanation on, is it because of the highway department not being able to get in there when they'd like to? If we're looking at the criteria, and where in the criteria you're
I think it's a
looking?
combination of them not being able to get into it when they want to, but also what they might have to do to get in there. In other words, if I'm sitting there having to, bulldoze down a gate, granted that's, not going to be the common situation, but if they have to bulldoze down or tear down that thing, I think that creates a potential for
All right, is it fair to say your biggest concern of the criteria is number 4 on the potential environmental and physical conditions of the neighborhood?
that would be fair.
Okay, all right. Want to comment on that, or we're trying to get a feel
That's
where
okay.
everybody is? Okay. Leah, again, just on the fence being in the easement, where are you on that?
Well, I feel I have to defer to the highway department and their recommendation and their opinion, because they do this work every day. And if they're asking the fence not be allowed in the easement, like I said, I'm deferring to them because they're the experts in this, and they see potential issues with having the fence there with future work, just like Larry was alluding to earlier. So, Mike, you can say it's, for same reasons as Larry.
Okay, great. So I think we're looking at, from Larry and Leah's standpoint, number 3 and number 4 in the criteria. It's substantial, it's in an easement, and it's the environmental impact is a potential issue. But before we move on then to the other piece, the fence north, it's really, I think that would be the biggest, because we've already talked about the fence being in the easement. Now it's the fence being further north than what you're permitted. Right?
Yes,
That's
sir.
where we're gonna, I think Matt has touched on a lot of very good issues on, well, you set out your thoughts, we appreciate that, and having the shed where you'd like it to be, you need that fence to be where you're asking for it in the first place. So I think another way maybe to look at it is, if the fence variance is granted, you're allowed to put it as far north as what you'd like it to be. There's nothing saying that the fence has to stay there. So let's just say the fence comes down. Well, now you have the variance that's there, and you can put the shed there really without asking for a variance for the shed. You see that dilemma that's being created or not?
No, I don't know if I understand.
Because if a variance is granted, it's for the fence, it's not the shed.
Yes, sir.
But it sounds like what you'd like to do is put that fence up and then say, I want to put the shed there. Well, you can't see the shed because the fence is there, so how are you going to deny me for the shed if the fence is already further north than where the shed's going to be?
Okay.
Right? Instead of having a look at it, if the fence wasn't there, I think the shed would be a much bigger problem. We've had applicants come before on a corner lot, they want to put a shed there, and a shed looks, it's like, wow, it just sits out there in no man's land. And it doesn't look good, it's going to change the character of the neighborhood, that whole line of thinking. On the usable space, as I look at even driving by it and even the aerial, you have some benefits on being on a corner lot that others don't. That being, you don't have a neighbor really to your north. You have the road, and then you have a neighbor 100 feet, 150 feet away. Well, your other neighbors who are side by side, they're 20, 30 feet away. So you do have a greater buffer than others do. Whether you pick the corner lot like that on purpose or not, I don't know. It's
Sure.
It's your thought process. So on that fence piece, Larry, where are you then on what he's asking for, the 15 feet, the 2 stake lines, if you will? This, I think we're really focusing on now is that fence line to the north.
You can't go through the easement. You wouldn't put a fence to the north, right?
Well, okay.
I'm just saying, I mean, the fence to the north has to go through the easement, so if the board isn't gonna let them put a fence to the easement.
No. The fence to the fence in the easement is to, no, that's not north.
Is this way?
North is up here.
Yeah, I know, I'm looking at the north.
The fence,
The easement's here.
the fence runs
Right.
north to south.
But I know, but he's gonna wanna, that north
Excuse me.
fence goes east and west
Correct.
through the easement. Maybe
No, it does, but
Okay.
but it's not gonna, if he can't extend it into the easement, it may have to stop short of the easement and then go north and south.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So, let's go, let's get some clarity from you. If the board decides, can't give you the variance, the fence through the easement, regardless if you get the 15 feet or exactly what you asked for to the fence line further north, what are your thoughts on that?
Fence won't happen.
Okay, that helps us a lot, because we
Yeah,
don't want to go.
we won't waste anybody's time. If that one's not gonna work, we're not gonna go through with the fence, because we're not
So
gonna
the
cut
most
the yard in
important
half.
one, that fence line that goes through the easement.
Correct.
Okay. All right, that being said, Fred, there are two separate variances, but I think you heard the applicant. If he can't have that fence through the easement with the conditions, you're still of the same thought that you still would grant that? Both
Yeah.
variances?
Yep.
Okay. And Matt,
Sure.
you're still the same way?
I'm still the same way, and even rereading what the highway superintendent said, obviously, it's in his best interest to not have anything in the easement. We've seen this situation many times before. The hold harmless agreements have more than sufficed, allowing something like this going into an easement like this. So I support it going into the easement.
All right, with the condition that the separate fence, if that
With
pool
the
goes up.
condition, with the condition that if there's a pool that goes up, that the pool has to have its own, fence per New York State guidelines and safety, sure.
Okay. Any change in thought, Larry, on, you're still the same, Leah, you're still the same?
Correct.
Okay. Anything else you want to add before we start walking through this?
No, sir.
All right, anyone from the public want to speak for or against? Okay. So that at least the board knows in how we're going to draft this. I'm in line with Matt and Fred with the condition that if the pool goes up, the condition is there's a separate pool fence for that. So the town and/or you aren't caught in a bind. So if that fence ever comes down, gates are open, that the regs state that no one's in a bind on having an open pool area.
Yes, sir.
As well as, notes from last time. Was it a 10-foot gate?
Yes, sir.
Or condition for a 10-foot gate? I imagine it's going to be latched from the inside,
Yes, latched, not locked.
not locked. And a hold harmless agreement. Did we talk about who's drafting that?
Negative.
We did not. All right, so the town board then would create and draft the hold harmless agreement and failure to execute that, sign it, submit it is a deal breaker on this. That has to happen,
Yes, sir.
correct? Okay.
That's a condition, I assume?
As a condition, right, so there's three conditions. The hold harmless, if the pool goes up, a separate fence, a minimum of a 10-foot gate latched, not locked. All right, with that,
Are we just voting on the easement, or are we doing the 10.5 foot on the side too? Well, second front.
I do want to go back as well on the latch not locked. I don't really want to tell the applicant that he can't lock his gate to his back house. I mean, my guess would be, and I'll look to Adam, that if there was ever going to be anything that has to be done in there, he's going to get a phone call. It's not going to be 2 o'clock in the morning, the highway superintendent department's going to have to go and kick down a fence to do
gone.
something.
What are you
right?
gonna do if
But
he's gone 2
if he's gone for 2 weeks, then sure, maybe somebody's cutting a lock or something. If they can't, like, worst case scenario, they can't get a hold of them, or they gotta rip a fence out or do something, that'll be on you. But in my opinion, I'll vote for it either way, but I don't think we should say the applicant can't lock his own fence. It just doesn't feel right to me.
he agreed to it.
I don't plan to lock it. I don't plan to lock it. So
Okay,
it
all right,
it is
all right.
what it
No,
is.
no, that's okay. If you're okay with it, then.
All right, so we're going to do just the fence in the easement, because we're going to have to draft two separate variances, two separate resolutions, rather. All right, so the conditions we're applying really apply to the fence that's being proposed in the easement. First, an undesirable change would not be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties created by granting of the area variance. after today's meeting and last month's meeting, having sufficient detail also from the highway superintendent and the conditions that we'll discuss later regarding a separate fence if a pool is ever to be constructed, at least a 10-foot gate latched, and a hold harmless agreement to be drafted by the town board and executed by the applicant. Would anyone like to add anything to the first criteria? All right, second, the benefits sought by the applicant. Oh, boy. Give me a second here. I'm debating on whether to say you can or cannot achieve it by some feasible method applicant to pursue. All right, let's put it that the applicant cannot achieve by some method feasible to pursue other than an area variance. He's interested in putting a fence up. The easement that is to the, it runs north and south, that is to the east of the home, takes up 20 feet from his backyard. It's a substantial piece, so he really has limited options on putting a fence to the east of the property. Would anyone like to add anything to the second criteria? Third, the area variance is not substantial. We have heard from the highway department, but as we're going to indicate at the end, there are conditions that should satisfy the concerns from the highway department.
I'd recommend if it's going to be, can't be achieved by some other method feasible, I agree, but I would say it is substantial. It is a fair amount that's going into it.
Okay.
I personally, I'm not weighing that. We understand it's substantial. The highway department said it's, substantial in their opinion. But I think what we're largely focused on is that you've got number 2 and then number 4 that'll be coming up are the ones that are focused on more to balance it.
Yep, that sounds fine. Fourth, the proposed variance potentially will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. However, after reviewing the highway superintendent's concerns and the conditions, especially the 10-foot gate, the hold let's do them all. The hold harmless agreement, the 10-foot gate, and having a separate fence around the pool if it's ever constructed, should satisfy the concerns of the highway department. Would anyone like to add anything to the fourth criteria? If the alleged difficulty is self-created, as far as the conditions, I will repeat them. Town board will draft a hold harmless agreement for the applicant to pursue, or for the applicant to execute at least a 10-foot gate with a latch, allowing the highway department to enter and work on the easement and sewer if necessary. And if a pool is ever constructed, there will be a separate fence around the pool. Anyone like to add anything else on the easement variance? All right, I would entertain a motion for approval on the variance for the fence going in the easement.
I make that motion.
Second?
Thank you, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Very good, all right. So that takes care of the fence and the easement. Now, on the 15 feet piece, Fred, where are you on that? 15 feet or what he's asking for? Excuse me,
10.5 feet.
I misstated. 10 and a half feet. This would be north of the home, running east and west. Where are you on that part
I
of it?
saw the 10.5 feet. And I thought it looked fine. There's such a accumulation of fencing up the street there a little ways.
All right, so you-
It's not out of character.
Sorry, are you referring to the 10 and a half off the house or the full distance that we were looking at?
he's in his original
I don't
proposal.
care.
His original proposal, he was looking for,
Let's look to go out to the RG&E easement. It would be 25 feet total off the corner of the house, because the RG&E easement is 10 feet. So it'd be 13 feet off the sidewalk.
25 feet north of the existing home, going towards Erica Trail, or 10 and a half feet, that mirrors what you had on the south side of the house. Where are you on that, Fred? 10 and a half feet or the 25 feet?
I'll go with the 25.
Because you don't think it's going to change the character of the neighborhood?
Yeah.
Okay. Matt, where are you on this?
With the 10 and a half feet.
Larry?
We're talking about 10 and a half feet north?
Yes, 10 and a half. He staked it out two different places. One is what he was asking for, and then,
That one's 25.
and the other,
So there's two little differences. So this is with 25 feet, and this is the layout with the 10 and a half feet. So we gotta move this up.
I guess I'm against it because I drove up there this afternoon and I didn't find any other, real house that didn't have their fence in back of the,
Right across
in the
the,
correct distance.
right across the street. The,
Well, it didn't look quite the same. They all looked like they were back of the house.
so the address directly across the street, and I presented that, I think it's like 6430 Erica Trail, in the last meeting. It was permissible for them to go 10 feet off the sidewalk on their side yard, or their side front setback.
Did we confirm that? Did Adam, did you confirm that? Or did-
I don't know why, but I was able to find the permit approving that, so
Okay.
we're looking into that.
I'm sorry, Larry, actually, you have three thoughts. You either deny the variance outright, or what we had talked about last meeting was that 10 and a half feet, and we looked at 10 and a half feet, picking that was the south side of the house is where he would be permitted to put that fence. So to be symmetrical, north and south, to then go back east and west. Well, east, not west.
Yes. It would be another
Follow,
variance.
or are we,
Well, the 10 and a half is going further north,
Right.
south.
right, correct.
But it goes east-west.
It's not very
We're
much.
talking about this one, and you're talking about the 10 feet on the south
Right,
side.
we
of
had
the house.
looked, right,
Thinking of
when
the same.
Yeah.
the discussion, in a nutshell, and correct me if I'm wrong, was to go.
Oh,
up
I watched the meeting.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, no, I'm up to date on that.
Okay, good, then you got it.
I guess I would be okay with the 10 and a half feet.
Okay. All right, that helps. Leah, where are you on this?
10 and a half feet.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So, to help me work through a solution then, if we went with the 10 and a half feet, so that would be the updated plan, where would you recommend I place a shed? And maybe Adam, you can help out with that. Where would I be able to fit that?
So you would still need a variance, either in both of your proposed locations. Because so you're in a cluster subdivision, your side setback has been reduced to 10 feet. That would be on the south side of your house, you'd have to be 10 feet from the property line. Or, because you're in a cluster subdivision, there's parameters in there to allow for setback reduction for sheds only of to 5 feet, but there's 10 criteria that shed have to meet based on size, can't have any electricity, it has to face a certain direction. So from what you're proposing, based on the pool, you would probably need a variance either way because it looks like you're right on the property line.
Yeah, I'd have
That's to the south side.
I'd
And
have
then-
14 feet on either side, which with a 10-foot shed would leave me 4 feet, so either right on the property line or a couple feet off, and that puts me within a maximum of 4 feet to the pool.
Right.
So I'd have 4 foot of space between, if I'm on the property line, but I'd have 4 foot of space between the pool and the shed. Or if I was off the property line any distance, then it would just deduct that from the pool.
So that would require a variance for setback reduction. Or if it's on the north side, you need a additional variance for to the front line of the home for accessory structure. I'm sure it's probably not gonna go in the easement, but that too would require area variance, another hold harmless agreement. So your best bet is to reconfigure your backyard ideas to try to get at least 5 foot side setback to the south, and you would not need a variance. You just have that limitation in the type of shed that you could get.
Okay.
You know, it's 150 square feet, no side longer than 15 feet, so I think the 10 by 15 shed you're proposing would meet it. Like I said, it just can't have electricity, it's got to face a certain way. Those are the ones I know off the top of my head.
Okay.
So there's, you know, uniquely shaped pools out there. They can be oriented certain directions. You may be able to get more space. If not, you're going to be back here trying to get variance.
Okay.
Can I answer your question?
Kind of.
I know.
Yes, sir.
You good?
I got
You
you.
need more time, then.
No,
let
no,
us
I
know.
don't need any more time.
Okay, good. All right, so I think you have an idea of where the board stands on the, which you've originally requested, and then the board now taking a look at the 10.5 feet. And really, the prime thought here is granting a variance as minimally as possible. Even though you've asked for something, it's our job to take a look at what is the least we could grant a variance for. That's what this exercise is. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay. Ready to go forward?
yes.
All right. All right, with that, let's go through then the variance for the fence. And really, this is primarily talking about the fence that is going to run east and west, which would be north of the principal structure. At 6.5, I would misspeak, at 10.5 feet, an undesirable change would not be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties created by granting of the area variance. As pointed out, there are some corner lots with some fencing that is on the non-driveway side. So arguably, it would not be an undesirable change, allowing a 10.5 foot fence as we are now looking at. Would anyone like to add anything on the first criteria? Second, the benefits sought by the applicant arguably can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than area variance. However, the applicant has staked out 10.5 feet both to the north and south to attempt to have some symmetry for the fence and to help with keeping with the how the neighborhood looks. Would anyone like to add anything on the second criteria? Third, at 10.5 feet, the requested variance is not substantial. The fencing to the south, again, would mirror to the north, so arguably it is not substantial. Would anyone like to add anything on the third criteria? Fourth, the proposed variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. I'll have to qualify that because some of the fence that's going to run east and west will run through the easement. But as we've done with the prior variance, that the applicant is willing to sign a hold harmless agreement that is drafted by the town. There's going to be a 10-foot gate with a latch, and also is indicated that if there is a pool constructed, that there will be a separate fence. And while I'm thinking about that, I think it would be wise to put those same three conditions with this variance as well. Fifth, the alleged difficulty is self-created. Want me to repeat the conditions? Good?
No.
Okay, good. All right, then, with that, I would entertain a motion for approval for the fence, again, north of the primary structure running east and west.
A motion for approval.
Thank you, Matt. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Fred. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for your patience with all
Thanks for
of
your time, appreciate it.
it. Good luck to you. Just a quick second here.
Sure.
All right, the Smith application. You'd like to subdivide a lot into three.
That's correct.
You were here, let's see, back May 20th, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. We had to go through the county, which happened fairly recently as well.
Were you able to review the county?
Yes, sir, I've got it here.
Any thoughts, comments, concerns with that?
No, they just stated that they would make no formal recommendation to deny or approve for the residential subdivision under 5 lots, was their entirety of their comment.
Okay. So before we, do you have anything else you want to add or talk about?
Just briefly, Anthony Venezia is unfortunately unable to attend tonight. He's helped me draw the map here, obviously. I think in understanding this process through what he told me, under the current zoning rules, separating the house and subdividing off the lot that would be off County Route 9 is permissible as things currently stand. So we are here to ask for a single variance for the lot that would come off of Stoneleigh Trail, and I believe that would be east of the current residence at 5 Stoneleigh Trail. That's also my house as well. And that leaves the pretty much directly south of the 5 Stoneleigh Trail. There's an open area there, and I think we didn't address that last time, so I wanted to take just a moment to talk about that. That's probably the most important piece of the property for me. It preserves, and I would say actually adds quite a bit of value to my house to keep that open, so that nothing would be built there. It's never our intention to have anything built there, to come for another variance request or anything else. So I just wanted to let the board also know I would be certainly willing to entertain any type of language, if this was approved, to say that, this could not be subdivided at any time now or in the future. Again, that's a pretty important piece of the puzzle for us to add the value to our house, keeping that clear.
You understand that you could do that without dividing that other parcel into 3 lots, correct? So you're proposing to divide 1 lot into 3.
Correct.
You're expressing how adding that additional open land to your existing house on Stoneleigh Trail is important to you.
Right.
But you own both those lots already.
I do.
So you could administratively do a lot line adjustment and take as much of that parcel and put it onto your parcel as you wish. Has nothing to do with a 3-unit or a 3-lot sub.
Understood. And if, I'd be willing to change the order of operations if that was necessary. I'm going with the advice of Anthony here on this.
Okay. And you also understand that by code, you're permitted to subdivide that existing lot into 2 without needing a variance. It's going to 3.
Correct.
That requires-
Right, and that's ultimately the reason we're before the board today, to request that 1 lot variance, that third to the east of 5 Stoneleigh Trail.
Okay, I just don't want you to feel like you can't add to your existing parcel without this variance.
Yeah, understood. And my concern in saying that we'd be willing to add that language is more than anything else. Just, we're asking for a single lot variance here. We're not trying to do anything funny here. That was bought for a very specific reason, to increase and preserve the value of our house. We don't want to build anything there. So that was the only reason I brought that up.
All right, so on the density issue, and going to try not to repeat everything that was discussed last time, but there is patterns that, if you will, we take a look at what happens, changing the character of the neighborhood, but the density issues in a particular area, and especially in this, it's a simple math equation. So define, has it ever happened before? Not necessarily, I don't want to call it quite precedent, but the density issues are in there for a reason. There's intent so that property owners can't carve up and supersede what the code is now requiring. How much can you carve up a piece of property and divide it?
Correct.
Two.
I understand. Yes, sir.
Three, Adam, how many times has that happened in recent history?
Yeah, so about a year ago or so, we had a similar application for a different parcel, and I did research at that time, and I went back at least 15 years and could not find one that was approved for density. So I could go back further, but the records,
Understood.
that's where the digital record changes to paper record, and research becomes much more
Understood.
difficult. Okay.
Understood. And I'm asking here, does the fact that things like the green space requirements have already been met, does that factor into this equation at all? And you mentioned character of neighborhood. I assume that maybe that's a different issue, but this, lot sizes are obviously consistent with the rest of Stoneleigh Trail.
In my mind, asking for a variance that supersedes the density requirement is a deal breaker.
Okay.
There's green space, and Victor, they do what they can to protect as much green space as possible. But in this instance, it's really hard to, the principles behind a variance is to have some flex in a law, that I think you heard me before, each property, it's a case-by-case basis, they are unique, but there comes a point when you can't ask the code to bend so far that it just completely ignores the intent of that particular section of the code.
All right.
Density makes it clear that here's how many times you can divide a piece of property. And it allows you, in this instance, you can make 2. Asking for 3 is a huge ask. Now, I don't know where the rest of the board is, but as far as my understanding of the intent of the code on density, asking for more than 2 is an enormous ask.
Understood. There's also a fair amount of property there. I don't have the exact number. It's well over 4. It's north of 4 acres too. So I understand what you're saying. I respect that. But at the same time, there's a fair amount of property out there. I'm not asking on a 2-acre lot where I think it would be kind of ridiculous to have everybody packed so tightly. It's a fairly substantial piece of land.
It sounds like it as well that, like Adam said earlier, by right, you can move that property line behind your house and gain sufficient green space and solve looks like a big piece of your problem.
Yeah, yes, sir. But again, having that third lot obviously financially is a benefit. That being said, that lot to the east of the 5 Stoneleigh Trail, no intention of
So
selling.
question to make sure, but you're willing to create a lot that you're not going to do anything with,
Right.
and no one could ever build anything onto it. So what's the value of that lot?
Again, it is to increase, this is a stupid example, but I have a soccer player in my house. Gives her a space to kick the soccer ball.
No, I
mean,
understand that, but the way Adam described it, you could almost get, without any changes, well, here, by this board, exactly what you want by moving your lot line and deciding, right, that you're not going to build or do anything with that, and you would have 2 other lots.
3 other lots.
3 other lots,
I think
sorry.
you're misunderstanding his intent. So there's a lot.
Maybe I am, that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to flush out here.
There would be 2 additional lots that you would sell off, I'm assuming.
In all
Right, you're
honesty,
talking
our
about the one
intention
on
is-
Stoneleigh to your.
They would be
east,
approved as
the one to
lots,
the
right?
west.
Correct, yeah, so there would be on County Road 9, property 421 County Road 9, there would be 1 lot would have the existing house, and to be honest with the board, we'd like to go ahead and sell that house. I don't have any real interest in selling the property, but whatever, that doesn't matter for this discussion, I suppose. But the request would be to add the County Road 9 lot and to the east of 5 Stoneleigh Trail lot. So the ultimate number would be 3 we're requesting, whereas 2 is currently permissible.
Can I speak for a second?
Yeah.
The picture is kind of confusing. We would move, it says in there that both that lot would be joined to our house, so we would just move the lot line. back and have it part of 5. I don't know why it's drawn that way, but
So you're saying the lot farthest to the south that covers that access road is really part of your main Stoneley?
Yeah, so if you look at the site plan, there's a small, like reverse Z-shaped hash mark drawn through that line.
Yep, I see.
So that line is to disappear. The reason it's on there is because it's currently it's the existing property line.
So what were you referring to earlier then, Adam? When you kind of outlaid to the
So,
applicant that,
because he already owns both these parcels, he can reconfigure any adjoining lot line any way he wants. Like, he's not creating a new parcel, so you can do what's called an administrative lot line adjustment.
right,
Once you get into creating new parcels, okay, new tax ID, it could potentially be a new mailing address, that becomes a subdivision. Subdivision requires density, certain density in certain
Right.
districts. I think you understand.
I do, right,
Yeah,
and that
I
is
think there's
exactly
just a
what-
little confusion because of the way that the site plan is presented. It looks like there's 4 lots, and
Yeah, right, correct. There's not,
But-
we're not asking for 2 variants.
so just to clear things up,
Just a single variance.
you would create a lot coming off of Stoneley Trail
That's correct.
that you would, could, maybe not would, but could sell off for
Yes.
somebody to develop, and you would create a lot off of County Road 9 that you could,
Yes, sir.
right.
And then the place pretty much due south of 5 Stanley Trail, again, we have no interest in creating a sellable
Right.
lot there.
Right, so it's that creation of those new lots that triggers the need for this.
The correct, yes, the density requirement there that
Yes.
triggers a request for the variance.
Hold on, stop. One at a time. If you guys got a question, then go ahead. I'd like to hear what you have to say, but are you finished?
Yes,
with-
sir.
Okay, go ahead. You got questions?
I'm trying to make sure I get this right. You're saying that you're gonna take this lot below this is 5?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so you're gonna, that's just gonna be one lot.
correct.
And this whole thing is one lot now.
All of it, that's correct, yes. It's all one lot right now.
All right, let's be a little
he's
more
gonna create.
specific.
so-
Hold on. Let
I
me-
can try to, there, you
try.
see where there's 2 lots, and they both show driveways, one going on to Stoneley and one going on to County Road 9. Those are the 2 new lots in addition to your one that you have.
Correct.
Correct. So he's looking to create these 2, but the code only allows one of them, because he's already got the third, right? The third is where he lives now, or the first is where you live now and behind it.
No, so the house that he lives at now
No.
is irrelevant.
This is who's on first. Okay.
Stop. Let me see. Let's start one at a time. On your map, on this aerial map, all right, you have this? So we're
No,
on the
but
same page.
I can,
Okay, so there
That's
is
a
a
good
lot.
image, right there.
There we go.
yeah.
No, I want the ones with lines on it. Okay, so I think that's what we're looking at. There is a lot in between the 2 existing homes, it's called Lot 1. You see that?
Can I just go look real quick?
Yeah, go look, or look at this one.
Got the driveway onto Stoneley.
Take that.
This one.
Is this
I-
one here?
Yes,
Yes, okay, yes.
no, please go back over there, take that. There we go. Let's do this one step at a time. So do you see in the colored map, there is a lot that's in red and it says Lot 1. You see that?
Yep,
Is that one of the lots, the new lots you want to create?
yes.
Okay. Lot number 2, there is an existing house. It's labeled lot number 2. Is that a parcel you want to create?
No, that's already there.
Why is it labeled lot 2 then?
We don't know.
It's a lot you want to subdivide from the original, is it 4 acres? I forgot the
A little
exact.
north of 4 acres, yes.
So that's going to be parceled off into a separate lot of 1.5 acres, I believe I read.
Right, and I think that's why it was
I
labeled
mean,
as
if
a
I
separate
could,
lot.
if I could, just let me try and finish. We are going 18 different directions here. All right, I'm sorry. So whatever is labeled Lot 2, that is not a new lot, that exists, so it's not accurate to call that Lot 2. Fair enough?
It would be a new, they're labeling it because the lot dimensions are changing. So because they're parceling off portions of that existing parcel, it creates technically a new lot. But the number already accounts because one lot exists.
I'd still call it Lot 2. It's
Correct. That's not atypical from site plans that we see where there's an existing house. Let's say they had 100 acres, they'll still put a lot number on that existing house.
What I'm working on identifying is where are the 3 new lots you want to create? And not over here, over there, not east, not west.
The lot, all the way at the west of the property that abuts County Route 9 would be a lot, and then.
Hold on. I want some identification that's on the colored map. Does it say Lot 3?
Yes, sir.
I believe we're right.
That is another lot, so that would be, can we call it Lot 2?
Wait a minute, hold on. Lot 2 is what says Lot 2, and then Lot 3 is over here. This in the middle is all part of where they live. It isn't really in their consideration here. So it's this one that has access to County Road 1 to the west,
It's labeled Lot 3.
right? And then Lot 2, which has a house on it, and then Lot 1. 1, 2, 3.
That's what I asked him, and he said no. I asked
I
you.
did in
the
error.
house, there was an existing house, and it says Lot 2. Is that one of the parcels, a new lot you want to create?
I was under the impression through the gentleman that helped me do this that it would be labeled that way.
No, but it's one of the 3. You're asking for
Yes,
3 lots.
yes.
It's one of the 3 lots.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank God.
I'm trying to get everybody on the same page, so each one of us are talking about the same 3 lots that you want to create from one lot.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Okay, there we go. Now, we understand each other. All right, and you, for that lot line that's to the south of your home on Stone Lee, you know you can move that line further south and create as of right. You don't need
So hold
a
on.
variance.
This Z indicates, as I was just informed by Adam, this is not a separate lot. This and this are the same lot. That's what this Z indicates on the map.
Why is that red line there?
Because that's the existing property line.
And this is going to disappear. This line is disappearing, and it's going to be all one lot. But it's not,
As we sit here today, that line exists. You can, by right, you don't need a variance. You can move that lot line further south. Is that what Adam's saying?
Yes.
Yeah, they own both parcels, they can, yep.
So right now, I see the Z, I see the backward Z, but what I was trying to get clear from Adam is to move that current lot line further south, you don't need a variance.
Understood.
Okay.
Could I, it's along the same line.
Right.
Can he, on his own, move the lot line all the way to the end here, thereby breaking up the 2 pieces?
well, that's what he's doing. He's eliminating the line. The Z eliminates this line here, so.
But what I'm
that
saying
his lot
is if
line.
he comes all the way here,
Right.
he's
Where's
already
here?
broken it up, and now we're talking about 2 and 1.
So, right, so if he eliminates this, which is what they plan on doing, their lot line for this parcel is all the way back here by this
Right.
road. This whole thing is encapsulated.
Oh, well, sure, yeah, okay, so you're talking,
This whole thing right here
right.
is all part of the house.
If he does that, what I'm saying is, this is not part of 3 then, this is 1 on its own.
It's not a
This is-
subdivision because they're not creating a new lot. It's a lot line adjustment.
Right.
So there's 2 lots existing. If they move the lot lines around and there's still only 2 lots, it's just a lot line adjustment. It's not a subdivision. So they can go to 2 lots from the existing parcel by the overlay district because they have 4-point-something acres. So they need 2 acres per new lot. They want to do 3 new lots, which would require a minimum of 6 acres from the parent parcel, which is where that old existing house is, lot, which is now lot 2. That's all one big parcel.
He can move his lot lines north, south, east, and west, create 2 new lots, just move, he can't. He still needs a variance for that?
He can create 1 additional lot without needing a variance. He's trying to create 2 additional lots.
What are the 2 additional ones on the map? 1, 2, or 3?
1 and 3,
1 and 3 are the 2 additional lots.
correct. Lot 2 is labeled that way because it's changing. It's not going to be as it was existing. It's technically a new lot, just part of it. I'm not explaining it well. Its lot lines are changing. Okay. It doesn't count because of one lot already exists. There's one big lot. He's trying to turn that one big lot into 3 lots.
It's got the yellow borders.
But I guess what I'm trying to understand is if he can take the lot line and go right back out, so that'd be one lot, and then he'd still have, well, this is all one lot, so he didn't. Would go, taking the lot line all the way south, create a lot here? Can he?
Well, that's what he's doing. Like Lot 3 is, see, originally, the property we're talking about consists of what it says on the drawing, Lot 1, 2, and 3, and then that piece in the middle, which the applicant wants to add on to his house. But that piece in the middle is part of that whole property we're talking about.
Can you see this picture on the screen?
There it is. That's the one I was looking for.
That's the lot as it exists today.
But he can go from his house
It doesn't include this.
all the way south
Belongs to that.
in a tunnel fashion
No, he would have to consume to
So he
the,
would consume
to
the
the
whole-
west as well,
to the whole west side.
towards County Road 9.
So he would then
He can't
have-
create a new lot without it becoming a subdivision.
Okay.
But he can manipulate those lot lines as long as he's not creating a new lot. By right, he could go all the way back and create one new lot because they have the density, they have the acreage and meets the density. It's the additional lot off of Stoneleigh Trail, one or the other. He could absorb all of it. You could absorb what's proposed as Lot 3 as part of your lot. You could leave that as Lot 2. However you wanted to manipulate that and then make Lot 1 the new lot, or you could eliminate Lot 1, make that part of Lot 2 or your lot, and create Lot 3. But you do all of that without a variance.
Understood.
Right. I think you guys are
Yeah.
aware. The site plan is confusing to look at, and I think that's why we're,
Yep, understood.
Okay, one more question.
Sure.
If he creates, so if he comes all the way back, he creates one lot and 2 lots. Right? He'd have, because this is still,
So no, today.
it's still the
no,
original.
no. The
Right
original-
now, it's all of this.
The original is part of this house,
Right,
yep.
all of it.
right.
So
But
there
if he comes from here, from his 5 Stoneleigh Trail, comes all the way back, he can make all of this part of this house.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
You could do that administratively.
How long
That's
does
what
he
he's saying.
have to wait before he could break this off?
But he's not doing that.
He doesn't have to wait any amount of time. He could, if
So
he
he could
has
break
the
this off.
acreage, if as long as he left himself 4 acres, if he only gives himself, by doing that lot line adjustment, split it into 2 3-acre lots, no further subdivision would be allowed without a variance. But the parent parcel currently has 4 acres. By right, he could subdivide that existing lot into 2. He would like to subdivide it into 3.
But he just doesn't, okay. Sorry.
No, we're all in the same boat.
There was over here, over there a little bit. The parent lot parcel is actually what's been labeled as Lot 2. It owns, this would be where the existing house is.
Everything that's red.
Everything that's in red, it's where the existing house is on the parcel that is Lot 2, also is part of Lot 1. The remaining lands to be combined with the house that you currently live in and Lot 3. So that as we're looking at the graphic, the aerial, without any red lines, that's up on the screen right now. So Adam, do we understand it correctly then, that because he owns both parcels, he can move those lines by right, whether it be subtracting from the existing house that's on what's labeled as Lot 2, or the current home that the applicant lives in on Stone Lee? They can move those lines around.
Correct, yeah, I mean, even if he didn't own parcels, but it was agreement through both property owners, that's an administrative lot line adjustment, it's not creating a new parcel.
But he can only create 2 parcels out of it without a variance,
So the existing lot,
plus another.
he could subdivide once
Right.
without a variance and create 2
You,
lots.
are you part of the applicant, or
I'm an attorney.
Yeah,
I
she's our attorney.
represented them when they bought this parcel.
if
So I-
you're okay with her speaking, then?
Yeah, she's a neighbor too. She lives in the
Yeah, I
neighborhood.
live
I don't want to hear what your
I'm
neighbors
not
say.
saying above or, I'm not for or against for this part of it, but I just wanted to clarify what the intent was when they bought the parent parcel. As you're saying, it makes it very confusing that they labeled that as Lot 2, and that confused me too. Because if you just think about it, they bought the Lee's house that consists of that whole 4.5 or almost 5 acre parcel. And what the intent, that what Russell and Kelly want to do, is they want to create a lot up front with access off County Road 9, and they would probably sell that lot. You're adding property onto their own existing home at 5 Stoneley Trail, and then you would have still a piece that we would call Lot 2, which is the Lee's house and acreage attached to it. They would be, and then Lot 3, if it was granted, would be that lot on Stoneley Trail.
I understand the intent.
Okay.
Part of it, and a huge part of it is remarkably confusing on the lines and what you're actually
Yeah,
trying to do.
I agree
The
with that.
hurdle, as I've said right at the outset, the hurdle is trying to outdo that density requirement. As far as Adam's research, it doesn't happen, it hasn't happened in Victor. So to ask for a variance to completely override the density requirement would break that whole code itself for the density.
Right. Can
Now,
I
it's
ask
one
a-
thing to have a fence a little further back, left or
Right.
right. This is a huge ask.
Can I ask a follow-up question to your suggestion about the Smiths being able to parcel that up any way they want to administratively? If he was to administratively, make this a separate, would he be able to sell that lot up front?
No, so you can't create a new lot administratively.
So,
So you have 2 lots as it exists today. He owns 2 lots. He can manipulate the lot lines between those 2 lots as long as he doesn't create a 3rd lot, okay? As soon as that next lot gets created, that's a subdivision.
Right.
It's no longer a lot line adjustment.
right, so is it possible to, would he have to revise his application to get subdivision approval for 2-lot subdivision versus a 3-lot subdivision?
He would, yeah, so regardless of whether you received a variance or not, if he wants to move forward with any kind of subdivision, you need
Right.
site plan approval from the town planning board.
Right.
That's a different process. Or you need subdivision approval, excuse me.
He's
not-
only here
not
because
just
he
site-
wants to create 3 lots, not 2.
Correct.
Correct.
If he was to walk out of the room right now and come into the planning and building department with an application to turn that large existing 4-acre lot with 1 additional lot, he would only be going through the planning board process.
Okay.
It's that 3rd lot that doesn't meet the density requirement. He doesn't have the acreage required for a 3-lot subdivision. And so that's why you were told that in order to proceed with your intention, an area variance would have to be granted by the zoning board of appeals.
Right.
So if, just, I may be to a little clearer, if the board decides to deny your variance tonight, you still can move administratively lines around and create 2 lots, provided that they follow the density requirements, but without a variance. He doesn't necessarily need a variance to,
I think they know that very well. I think they know that very well.
Yeah.
They just want to get 3, their ask is,
We're
can we have
asking
3
for
lots
3.
to maximize?
Correct.
Yeah.
okay, got it.
And I understand and respect the density as well, and I think the only reason we're here is because we have a sizable enough chunk of land that I understand we don't meet the number, but at the same time, it's, we're not putting houses on top of each other. There's quite a bit of land out there.
And the other lot that we're asking for is actually even a bigger lot than our original lot that we live in.
Some of the reason why the density is created the way it is because the town has green space requirements when you go into a certain size subdivision. So anything
Understood.
5 acres or greater requires a 50% green space requirement.
Correct.
Regardless, if you do one additional lot, you're going in as a major subdivision and you're going to have to provide that 50% green space requirement.
So that was already accomplished, and we have the email from the towns that states that.
Okay.
The green space has already been taken care of.
So it's accounted for
There's-
as part of the previous subdivision?
That's correct, yes, sir. We do have the documentation as well from the town on that.
Okay.
Okay. Now that we got, who's on first? Squared away. Matt, do you have any other questions?
No other questions, just opinions.
Larry?
No other questions?
Leah?
No.
Fred? Anyone want to speak for or against the application? Come on up. Thank you.
Daryl Bowker, owner of 423 County Road 9. I spoke previously. I think listening to this tonight, in over 15 years, there's never been a variance granted for this density. I know the individual, the lawyer that just spoke, said that this is a near 5 acre lot. It's not, it's 4.1 acre lot. It allows for 2. Realized that when I purchased my property, which is identical. Understand that, but to put it in a subdivision, to me, is a gross misrepresentation of the zoning regulations. So hopefully you'll respect that. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. With that, I started with initially my very large concerns, big ask, big hurdle, completely overriding the density requirement. Fred, your thoughts on this?
There's an open field in the center that just about defines the neighborhood. And that's not being split up. I don't have any quarrel with doing this. I was having trouble reading that map. Mrs. Smith came out and drew one, and took one look at it, and I understood it perfectly. I thought I shouldn't bring it tonight, but maybe I should have.
Matt, concerns, questions?
No, I think it's a want, not a need. I think, sure, absolutely, you'd maximize your return on the investment you made in that other property. I concur with what Mike and what Adam had said regarding the density. It would require something unique, which I don't see here to really go against. I think it's up to the applicant. I think there's I guess if you look at the code as a criteria number 2, which is there another, the benefit sought by the applicant could be achievable by some other method. I think Adam laid it out to get 2 parcels in there and not 3. That's where I'm at.
Okay, Larry?
I'm in the same place.
Leah?
Yeah. I think by not complying with the density issues would be a problem for the board, and I think it might open up a can of worms for the board, so I think for that reason, it can't be approved as is for 3 parcels.
Right, okay. Any other questions, concerns, comments? Yeah, come on up because we're going to walk through the proposed resolution.
Okay, I have 2 things to say. Our neighbors are all for it, like we've talked to them, and they were willing to sign a petition saying that they were all for it if we needed that. And the only other thing that hasn't been brought up is we were asking for the driveway for the existing house to go onto Stoneleigh Trail. That wasn't brought up at all.
So that would be a site plan approval by the town planning board. That's nothing that the zoning board would handle.
Oh, okay, thank you. I just didn't know that.
All right, so right now, we have one person that has not only written town, but has also been here and expressed his, whether he's for or against it, right? He's against it. But he's saying that our neighbors are all for it, and I think your attorney over there, it's hearsay. We have nothing to go on other than you saying our neighbors are for it. If you like an opportunity to say, you know what, can you come back the next time, and here's all the neighbors that are saying, yes, I'm for it, I'm for it, I'm for it, and here's why. If you want that opportunity, we can do that. I don't want to completely cut you off on that, but the board can't consider it just because you said our neighbors are for it.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand that.
You want that opportunity?
Yeah, I guess so, because, like, the one person that's complaining about it isn't in our neighborhood.
But he's within that area. There is a distance that those people that potentially could be affected by the variance are put on notice. He's here, he stated his opinion, the board can consider it, disregard it, put some weight into it. He's here, he's said his opinions on why
Okay.
he thinks he doesn't
Yep.
approve of it,
Got it.
okay?
Yep.
So I'm taking it that you're interested in having an opportunity to get something in writing from your neighbors saying what they think about this.
Sure, so that would postpone the vote, is what you're saying, next meeting?
Yeah, I think the board generally wants to hear what the neighborhood thinks, because right now, all that we have is the facts that we've learned today, the facts we have from the previous meeting, and a neighbor that has said he doesn't approve of the plan.
I guess the only thing from my perspective, if you just show up with a list of names and you fill the room with people, there's still other facts, right? The needs versus the want.
Exactly.
I don't want you thinking it's a slam dunk. Come
Exactly.
here with another
Like,
piece of
if
paper.
it, is it worth us to do that, or, like, are you guys still gonna go against it?
I don't have a crystal ball. I can't answer the question. If they just. Hold on, one at a time. Let me finish, and then if you want to say something, come on up. Right? You're asking the board to have a crystal ball and envision, what are we going to think when we hear or read what they have to say? I can give you some insight if your neighbor says, I approve, period. It's really not enough if it's, I don't think it's going to change the character of the neighborhood. I've lived there, something with some teeth into it to give an explanation on why they think the way that they are thinking. Okay? He came forward and he gave us some opinion about why he doesn't like it. The board takes some weight to it. Is it solely based on his opinion and how we think? No, of course not. There are other factors that are in play. And I'll tell you, the biggest piece that's in play, and I think from the whole board's opinion, is that superseding the density requirement. You're allowed 2, you're asking for 3. It's an enormous ask.
Okay,
Having your neighbors come forward and say, whatever it is that they're going to say, will we consider it? Sure, we'll consider it. Is it the be-all to end-all just because they say it's okay to do it? We have to wait and see. I can't answer that question without hearing some more information.
okay.
All right, is that fair enough?
Yep.
Okay. Good, all right. So we're going to give the applicant an opportunity to canvass the neighborhood, see what their neighbors have to say about the issue, and they're certainly welcome to come in and speak. If they would rather write a letter, email, submit something to the town board, or excuse me, the zoning board will certainly take a look at it and evaluate it. Fair enough? Okay, anything else that you want to add before we end this?
It might be helpful if the engineer is present.
We can't hear you over there.
I think it would also be helpful that whoever put together the plan be present at the second meeting as well, because like you said, some of this aspects of it were as clear as mud. You know, we're all looking at maps and trying to envision. I think everybody's got a better idea of what the intent is now, but hopefully everybody can be here at the next meeting.
I think we figured it out now, right? To me,
Yeah.
the yellow picture that we have shown up here
Yeah,
does it all. That's the
mother
one lot
parcel,
that
right.
that really needs to go into 2 or 3. Because the ask is, you want that to be divided into 3, and the code says you can make 2 out of it.
Will happen. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we're good on that piece? All right, so we're going to keep this open until the next meeting on the 15th of July. All right, at that point, I think we should have sufficient information on making a determination, a ruling on the variance. We're good. All right, then. The next piece, if there's anyone have anything else to come before the board? Concerns? Hearing none. I would entertain a motion for an adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thanks so much. Have a good night. Thanks for your patience.